Alrighty, we will go ahead and get started. Now, I'm just going to briefly introduce myself. You may be familiar with my voice. I'm Lakeisha Lynette Dealer. Go by my first name, which is Lakeisha, and I also go by a combination of my first and middle name, which is Lynette. And so I teach a lot of the programs and the courses, so you'll hear me a lot. Future will not be like that. But I actually have a lot of background in the paralegal career. I actually started a freelance paralegal business about a little over 5 years ago and did freelancing for a while. Then in California, we can actually offer services to legal services or legal document preparation services to the public, and you don't have to work under an attorney. So I did that for a while, and now pretty much just focusing on like estate planning. And my mother has a tax and accounting business, so do some work there, some accounting work, so mostly estate planning, accounting. So the information I'm providing to you in this session is not just what I've heard or I read online or I Googled. I actually have experienced this. So if you're considering freelancing, then just know that this is not from a Google search. This is actually from my own experience and then others that I know that I attended school with that started their own freelancing business and people that I may have worked with that also offer freelance services. So you can be assured that this is something that I have experienced myself or I know someone personally that has experienced this. So just to do a quick overview, when a paralegal decides to provide freelance paralegal services, it is more than merely deciding to become a contractor instead of employee. Now, I'll explain this a little bit later. Now, there are various scenarios for offering freelance paralegal services, which we'll talk about today, but they all require the need to work as an independent consultant for an attorney instead of an employee of a firm or a legal organization. This is where the challenges come into play because some paralegals will go into freelancing believing that the additional freedom that working for themselves provides will be easier than being an employee. And this misconception leads to a great deal of frustration and failure at being successful at freelancing. Others do not understand that when you are a freelance paralegal, you are actually an entrepreneur. So you have to market yourself, you have to sell yourself, and you have to be the one delivering the services unless you actually hire someone to do that. But most of the time when people start off with freelancing, they are actually doing the work themselves. Now, just keep in mind that freelancing is a form of entrepreneurship. You have your own business, you're self employed, and it's not easy, but success is possible. And so, I'm going to provide you with some tips and some things that you can avoid, things that I experienced. Now, looking back, realizing that I could have done things a lot differently, got better results and quicker results. But I learned that from experience. And I'm, glad I had that experience and I can share it. And now, it just made me, better at certain things. So in this particular session, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of working as a freelance paralegal, the options available to freelance paralegals, deciding what services you want to offer, how to go about that process, determining where to market your services, and effective methods to market your services, and how to quickly get up and started without investing a great deal of money. That's something I learned the hard way. So just to start off, freelance paralegal, what that is you are working for yourself. You provide services instead of working for a firm and you're getting a paycheck every week, every 2 weeks, once a month. You will receive, you set up your own payment structure. You determine, how often clients are to pay you, either up front or after, or when you work so many hours. and you can determine who you want to work for. You can determine what assignments you want to take and how much you want to work, which that often leads people to the misconception of it being easy, and it is not easy at all. Something that I have learned that's been very difficult for me, I've never been good at like selling and I say like, I'm not gonna say marketing. I'm pretty good at marketing, but selling, like, you know, letting people know it's different to go in for an interview and telling people about your skills. I'm good at this. I can type this fast. I'm really good at Lexis. I'm really good at this. It's different than when you are and you have a job versus when you're trying to sell someone on yourself in a different capacity because they don't know you. They're typically they're not going to do a background check on your company for the most part. They may, but it's a little bit different. So you really have to be, and this is not just a one-time thing where you go in for the interview, you sell yourself, you got the job, that's it. You're constantly selling yourself because you have to always bring in new business. So you really have to become a salesperson. You have to become a marketer. You have to be able to do your own accounting, unless you have someone that does that for you. But for the most part, you still have to keep your records and things together. So sometimes it can be a little overwhelming keeping those things together, but it's doable. So I'm going to talk about the pros and the cons, just so if you're considering freelancing, you don't walk in blind and then realize it's really something that's not for you. Now, the pros are that you can work from home. Some freelance paralegals, you may have your own, some people may have their own office. Some actually provide freelance paralegal services maybe for one or a couple firms where they actually go to the office of that attorney or work in that firm. So it's kind of like they're an employee, so to speak, but they work in the office. But when I talk about cons, I'll explain why that is always not the best thing to do. So you can work from home. You can actually schedule your time. So if you're a parent, if you have children, it works really good because if you have to, attend different events with your children, or if you're involved in different associations, or if you're someone that's very involved in, just very social, then you can schedule when you work around these particular activities. So it works pretty good. If your military wife spouse works pretty good too, because when you move, we're going to talk about different ways you can offer freelance paralegal services. It doesn't mean that you have to necessarily find a new job. You can continue on working for those same clients. So it's very flexible. You can really set how much you want to earn, really, because you can determine, okay, this year I want to make this amount of money. How much, break that down into how much you're going to charge clients hourly or per contract. Then determine how many clients you can take on or how many hours you can work per week, per month. And then that will break out per year. So you can really set your salary and determine how much you want to make. So you have your flexibility. There's really no ceiling on how much you can make and how much you can earn. And you can work on what you want to work on. If you work for someone else and you're not strong in a certain area, if you're an employee, if you get an assignment, you have to do that. You can't say, well, nope, I don't like doing those, or I'm not really good at that. You need to give that to someone else. You can try that, but you won't have it. Pretty much you won't have a job. But if you know that you have a weakness in certain areas or that you just prefer not to do certain things, then don't offer that service. Now, cons are the time. A lot of people go into freelancing thinking that, or just business and self-employment and entrepreneurship, thinking that they're free, they have all the time, which could not be the farthest thing from the truth. You work a lot. Although it's flexible, you really work a lot because you're doing everything, especially when you're up getting started. And let's say you have a certain budget you're working with. You may not have anyone working with you, helping you. So you're doing everything yourself. And everything could mean you're marketing, selling, doing everything. So your time is limited. You're working a lot of times, way more hours than you would if you were an employee. Sometimes the cost could be a con depending on what particular service you're going to operate or provide. Getting that operating capital, getting that going, realizing that a lot of times you don't make money for a while. All the money you bring in is pretty much could be going back out, just depending on what services you're providing, what particular tools you need. And with your time, although it's flexible, certain of your aspects of your life may suffer. Your social life may suffer because you have to dedicate more time, especially in the beginning, to getting your service up and going. Now, options for freelancing. You can transition. I've actually heard of where an employee worked for a company and then went on to offer freelance services to that company or that firm. So you can actually transition from being an employee to a freelancer or contractor. Virtual work, that's when I mentioned if you are a military spouse or you move a lot, virtual paralegal service, which you're still freelancing because you're on your own. You provide this, you're not going to the office of an attorney or firm. You're actually offering these services online. So you can work for an attorney really in another country if you know that, if you know the law. You can work for an attorney in any state if you know that particular practice area, or you know the rules of that jurisdiction, or learn them quickly so you can get up to speed. You can market your services wherever. So if you're doing virtual paralegal services, you can use these sites. Fireside, I just actually found this, so I have to look more into it. I've never used it before. Upwork, I have. I've used Upwork, pretty good. Now this one, it's not just paralegal and legal services, all kind of services, administrative, you name it. Employers, individuals, companies are looking to hire someone to do this work for them. And then they post the project on Upwork. It used to be called Freelance, and you bid for it. So, because you have to compete, just like if you would go to another job. But in this situation, it's online. The benefit of it is you can see who you're competing against. There's a free account. So with the free account, you can't see how much someone is willing to work for that job. But if you upgrade, I think it's like nine, maybe 10, 20. It's very affordable, dollars per month. But that gives you access to other tools too. But with that, you can see who is applying for those particular projects, not just how much they're willing to work, but who they are. Some people are actually applying for these jobs in other countries. So their cost of living is a lot less than here in the United States. So they may be willing to work for that on that project for a lot less. You can see that. And if you really want it, if you want to build up your profile, because as you work these jobs, it will show on your profile how many you've completed. People can rate you. So that helps you get more projects. So if you just want to get it, you might want to offer to do the service for less. So that's the benefit of that. But you can also see the credentials. Because when you go to an interview for a traditional job, the person may tell you, yeah, there's 10 other people that we're considering, but you don't know anything about them. So you really don't know what to focus on and, try to outshine that particular person or those people. Well, with this, you can see the credentials of the different people that are applying for these particular projects. So you can actually revise your I'll call it your application, because you're actually sending over, pretty much like a cover letter telling the company or the person why they should hire you, but you can update it. So if you go and you look through people's profile, best thing to do is to look at it before, but some people will apply after you have. So you can edit it and say, wait a minute, this person said this, I didn't even mention that in mine, and you may go back, edit it, and then resend yours over. So that's the benefit of that. Freelancer is similar. I've used Freelancer a little bit, but I've actually worked on Upwork. The other benefit of Upwork too is you don't know who you're working for. And so as far as There may be a fear like, are they going to pay me? Because some people won't pay you until you finish the project. But they have this thing called an escrow account. So you can actually request that that person put the funds in the escrow account that's with the company, Upwork. The person has dispersed it, but it just hasn't been sent to you. It's sitting in this account. So once you finish it and they approve your project, then it'll be released to you. So at least you know the funds are there and they have it. So you can get paid through the system. Know that you're going to get paid, and not at the end that you're not going to, you've worked all these hours and now you're not going to receive any pay for it. That's the great thing about that. Freelancer is another option. I'll send these slides out afterwards. So these are hyperlinked. So just click on them and it'll take you to those particular sites. I've used Upwork before. You can create a free profile. It's kind of like LinkedIn. And I believe they used to be connect to LinkedIn, but now LinkedIn, and I didn't put LinkedIn here, but now LinkedIn has this option where you can apply for jobs, not just job searching where you can, different companies are applying for their jobs. It's kind of like the same thing where people are looking for freelancers. So I haven't seen that integration anymore with Upwork because that might be some competition there. But LinkedIn, I haven't checked that out too much, but I believe they have a similar type of platform where you can submit and apply to projects on there. You can also freelance, and people don't think of this as freelancing, but it is because you're not an employee of a company, a firm. You can work for a temporary agency, and you can work for a different firm. Some people like to work 3 months and take a break and then go work somewhere else. Or some people just like to change. They don't want to work for one company all of the time. They want to work on different projects. So a good option for that, and that's still freelancing because you're not an employee of that firm. You're an employee of the temporary agency, but you're still able to have that freedom if that's what you're looking for, and work through a temporary agency like Robert Half Legal. Robert Half has different divisions, so make sure if you Google it, you do Robert Half Legal because they have an accounting division as well and an administrative division and I think some other divisions. So if you click on this hyperlink when you get the slides, it'll take you to Robert Half Legal. Then you have Kelly Legal Services is another, and they offer legal specific jobs. Now, good thing to keep in mind, either when you go through a temporary agency or you go to one of these sites that I have here, don't just search, because you can search for jobs just like you would search in like Monster or Indeed or a newspaper. You type in paralegal and do a search, but you don't want to narrow it just down to that. Type legal research, because some people and some attorneys are looking for someone to, and not even attorneys, as long as you're not drafting legal documents, you can do certain things for individuals like legal research. You can, but be careful with certain things when you're working through these virtual sites, because I see it a lot. I don't say anything, but a lot of times people I think are crossing that boundary. They're not attorneys. And even if they are, even attorneys have to be licensed in that particular state. So if an attorney is providing services to someone in a state they're not licensed, they're really acting as a paralegal because they're not licensed in that state. But there's certain things that you can do. Legal research. A lot of these legal research systems like LexisNexis and Thomson Reuters with Westlaw, they have all the commentary for you. So you really just look for what an attorney or an individual is looking for and just send them over what's in LexisNexis. You're not analyzing things for them. So you can do legal research. So you can type in legal research. You can type in certain words that a person may not put legal, they may not put paralegal, legal assistant. Sometimes people will put legal secretary, but really what they're looking for, and sometimes you might just want to work on that. They might be asking you to do, looking for a legal secretary, have that in the title, but it's actually the work of, a paralegal or something that you might be willing to do. So just think outside of the box when you're actually searching on these particular sites. Now, what services will you offer? this might be something that you can't decide on. What services do you offer? Where do you start? The best way is to capitalize on your strengths. Are you strong at legal research? Maybe just start there. Start small and just focus on legal research, or offer several services: legal research, legal transcription, evidence management, putting trial notebooks together, trial assistance, depositions. Some attorneys, if you're in the same state, they may ask you, and I've actually seen this before, attorneys may want you to assist them attend trials with them, or depositions if you're in that same area. E-discovery. And actually, this is not a traditional, you don't see this a lot. You don't see someone looking for a paralegal for blog post writing, but and I've seen this a lot. So if you're just looking to pretty much, because you can apply for a project today and get selected today. That's soon. I know on Upwork for sure. You can apply today and someone selects you. You can just get started. It just depends on when someone has time to review your profile and the information you send over and selecting you. Blog post writing is huge. Huge, huge, huge. I've seen a lot of law firms looking for blog post writers. Now you may think, well, I'm not a journalist. Well, the benefit of having a paralegal background is that, one, you a lot of times will know the topic, or if you don't, you know how to research it. And two, legal writing is a big part of the paralegal role. So blog post writing, huge. I mean, that's a really good place to focus in on, or even just to start off if you're just trying to get started. Or you can just focus on a practice area. You can focus on, let's say, bankruptcy. Now, the thing about bankruptcy, you can work for a law firm. You can actually work for individuals as well. If you just prepare the documents, you can prepare documents. You have what they're called bankruptcy petition preparers, but just know what the rules are and know that there's a cap on how much you can charge. So I believe, because this is a federal rule, so the cap is $200. Some jurisdictions is less. Some cap it off at like $150. But the cap overall is $200 that you can charge for pretty much typing a bankruptcy petition for someone. So you would just collect their information, and then you would just type it in the specific form and provide it to the person. So you can actually do bankruptcy for individuals or for a law firm. Civil litigation is huge. There's the different areas within civil litigation that you can focus on: personal injury, medical malpractice, civil rights, just so many different areas. Family law, intellectual property, elder law is becoming really popular now. Social security. Actually, Social security is one of those areas, again, where paralegals do not have to work under an attorney. And actually, intellectual property is one too, but you have to go through the, I'm not sure if it's the patent, it's one of those agencies. The patent agency is one of these agencies that you have to go through certain steps when you're doing intellectual property. Social security, as far as payment is concerned, depending on how you want to get paid, if you want to get paid, because some people are owed a lot of back pay with Social Security. So you can determine and go through Social Security, fill out these certain forms, and they will pay you based off of a percentage of how much the person gets back. But you have to research that for yourself and see, what the specifics are for that. But you don't have to be an attorney there either. So you can either work for an attorney or you can provide services to individuals. But again, look at the rules and see the specifics there. Corporate law, huge too. A lot of organization, a lot of documents, minutes and agendas. I've actually done this before, but I actually worked for an attorney when I did this. He worked for several different nonprofit organizations, several different entities that had to conduct board meetings on a regular basis. So I would attend these board meetings with him, take the minutes, type them up afterwards. I would put the agenda together, pretty much keeping that corporate minute book. So that's an area you can go into as well. So if you're trying to determine what services to offer, just consider those particular things when you're trying to decide. Marketing. Now, this is something that you might have to learn a new skill set for. And there's a difference between marketing and advertising. Marketing, you may be very good at marketing yourself, letting people know about you and things like that. You can market, so right here I'm really talking about advertising as well. How do you advertise your services without breaking the bank? There's traditional methods for advertising. So you can think of it like this. Traditional marketing talks at people, where content marketing, that's really where you have these ebooks and blogs and all of this information, because we like information, and so much information is accessible now online. So content marketing talks with them. You're providing them information. Traditional marketing, you're talking at people. And so we'll talk about this in a little while about what these different methods are as far as marketing and advertising is concerned. Word of mouth is huge. You can let people know. Let your friends, let your family, let people that you work for before know, hey, you know what, I've started my own freelance paralegal company, I'm offering freelance paralegal services. I just want to know, would you be interested in me providing A, B, and C? Have a little brochure together. If you have the money, you can, and we'll talk about this, different methods of doing this. You can create this yourself in Word. Word has templates for brochures, business cards, or go online, staples.com. Office Depot has different templates. Of course, if you do it yourself with Word, it's going to be a lot cheaper. But if, say, for instance, you're doing postcards, you have to purchase the postcard paper. So it might just be easier just to go to like Staples, select one of their templates that they have, put your own words in there, or Vistaprint. You can use Vistaprint yourself. Have these things available, brochures, so that when you talk to people, hey, I'm offering freelance paralegal services. If you know anyone that's interested, or if you're interested, give me a call. Here's my card, or here's a brochure kind of outlining the different services that I offer. Word of mouth is always good, not only to start off, but to continue on, because people like your services, they'll tell other people, and then you can get new clients from there. Where to market. You can market. Social media is huge now. We're online all the time. Facebook has an advertising, not just, you posting in Facebook and letting people know, but they actually have advertising. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but if you're in Facebook and sometimes like in LinkedIn, Twitter, they'll show it says like sponsored content or something like that. That's where people are paying for advertising. They're paying to have an ad shown. And these are pretty much, they're pretty reasonable. You can use Facebook. LinkedIn is a little bit more expensive. Twitter, you can advertise on Twitter. You can also use other methods as well. I think Instagram is something that people use to advertise. I haven't used it myself, but Facebook I have, LinkedIn, Twitter, familiar with those. So you just sign up. It's not that difficult, and they'll walk you. You can do it yourself. You just create this ad. It'll walk you through. They'll have little examples. Start a little ad up and just post it on there. Or you can reach out to people individually. Let's say like in LinkedIn, reach out to them. Let attorneys know. Go to site, join attorney groups, and reach out to attorneys and let them know you're offering freelance paralegal services. Would they be interested in maybe setting up a free consultation with you, and then letting them know about your services? So how do you go about doing this? You can do it yourself. This is the least expensive method, but it is time consuming. Not as only is it time consuming to do, it's time consuming to get started, because you have to learn these different systems. You have to learn a whole new language, really, so to speak. So it's time consuming. But if you're starting off on a budget, that's the best way to go. And a lot of times when you create ads with certain, like Google. You can use Google, Bing. These are search engines, like with LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook. These are social media platforms. Google, Bing, Yahoo, these are search engines. These are where people go to when they're searching for things. So it's a little bit different. But you can create ads there as well. And so you have to learn the languages, keywords. And a lot of times they'll start you off with give you like a free coupon, and you can put it in there, and it'll give you credit for so much money. And a lot of times one of their ad people, or you can reach out to them yourself, a representative, just ask them some simple questions. Hey, I'm new to this. I got this free coupon. Can you help me kind of give me a few tips on, how do I start? And then so it's doable. It's doable. You just have to invest the time. You can also hire a manager if you have this option where you can afford this. Those same sites that I mentioned, Upwork and Freelancer, you can hire and advertise someone that specializes in marketing and advertising, and you can set a budget. Say, okay, I only have this amount to spend. This is only how much I'm spending. Somebody may be willing to work on it. So you can set a fee. That's your hiring person. That's your hiring your manager, your marketing manager. Or if you physically want someone in your office, hire someone. Determine how much you're going to pay them, how many hours, and you can have someone do that for you. Now, this is going to cost more than, of course, doing it yourself. But if that's something you're looking for and you have the funds for that, then that's an option. Or you can just outsource to an outside marketing agency or person, a company that specializes in that. Now, that's going to probably be the most expensive. And the reason why I use probably is because when you factor in your time putting it together yourself and learning and all that, that's money. And then also, depending on how much you're spending for someone, let's say that if you hire someone that's coming in your office, that might be neck and neck. So it just depends. But for the most part, that's probably going to be the most expensive, because if you can hire a marketing person, through one of these freelancer sites and set how much you want to pay and how much you have to pay. And most likely you'll get someone. But with that outsourcing agency, you're probably going to see some results sooner. Now I say probably because you have to be careful on, what company you choose, and we have different packages. They have so many different ways to advertise and marketing, and this is, SEO content, and this is, just to get your ranking up. There's so many different things they're going to tell you about that you may not see results. Some of these particular ways of marketing and advertising your company take a while, because it takes a while for you to build up, let's say like on Google, like in this Google search, for you to go to, let's say, that front page or that second page. So depending on which method or what you use as far as marketing goes, you're probably with that outside marketing agency, because they specialize in that, see results sooner than any other method, unless you may know this already. So ways that you can market, some real ways that you can do: mail postcards. You can, again, create your own. There's templates in Word. There's also, if you go to a store like Staples or Office Depot, one of these office supply stores, and buy postcards, it'll have instructions on there through like a site like Avery.com, where it will show you how to create the words, pictures, and so forth and so on those particular postcards in Word. You can also go through companies like Vistaprint. Now, Vistaprint, I know, is a company that actually will mail them for you. So if you just want a list, new legal organizations in this particular area, zip code, and purchase a list, and they will mail it for you. Not really all that expensive. Or you can do it yourself. Just order the postcards. You may have your own list already, or you can purchase a list from various companies and mail it out yourself. You can distribute flyers. If you're offering certain services, if you know attorneys attend a particular place, or let's say a court, just go and put flyers out, on cars or whatever the case may be. Cold calling, pick up the phone book, and start calling. But, with businesses, I believe you can do business to business, not like the do not call registry for personal. I don't think the law is the same, but, look that up. But you can cold call. You might have numbers already. Cold call, that's picking up the phone, calling. Hi, introduce yourself. My name is so-and-so. I offer freelance paralegal services. I just want to know, would you be interested in knowing a little bit about my service and what I offer? Or attend networking events. Bar associations have different events. Attend those. There's other events where attorneys will be. Attend those and just, get to know people and get out and network. That sometimes can be difficult. You have to make time for it, because with that, you could be so busy doing what you're doing that, and then taking care of your other obligation as far as family or personal, that attending a networking event is like, when do I do that? So just pick a method that works for you. Try it, see if it works, and give it some time, and then just stick with it and watch have to watch the results come in. There's particular statistics about, how many postcards you need to send. I think it's like, I've heard of 1% of, all, your postcards you might receive a response from. So you want to calculate based off of that. If I send out 100 postcards and, calculate 1% of that. If I send 500 or 200, see how many people you're looking to respond and, send that many postcards out. Or, if your budget only allows for you to send out so many, you can determine, you can pretty much gauge how many responses you'll receive from there. So how do you get started? We talked about the pros and cons, and you might have said, you know what, I can do this. I'm ready to go ahead and get started. Now, outside of those pros and cons, keep in mind that you have to have certain skills as well, because you are an entrepreneur. You are working for yourself. You don't have someone keeping tabs on you. Oh, have you finished that report? You have 2 days to finish that report. You have to be really organized, extremely organized. You have to be disciplined as well. And you have to be task oriented so that you can keep things done. You have to be able to multitask. So once you determine that you have those skills, those underlying skills, you have to be a person that can persevere. If you give up quickly, being a freelance paralegal is not going to work for you, because unless you already have someone that that's already promised to keep you working, for particular projects from here on out, you don't have to market, you don't have to do anything else. You know what you're doing, you don't have to upgrade your skills, then, that might not be necessary for you to have really thick skin and be able to just stay the course, because sometimes you may get frustrated and you want to give up, but you have to keep on going. If that is what you want to do, you have to pursue your goal against all odds. Things will happen. It's just life. But when you start your own business, there's a lot to do. There's a lot to deal with. Freelance paralegal, you have to keep in mind you are self-employed. So you have to have the skills of someone that is self-employed outside of those paralegal skills. You have to be able to sell your services, market your services, be disciplined, multitask, be organized. Once you go through that, once you determine that you have those skills or you're ready to hone those skills, you've looked at the pros and cons and see that there's the pros outweigh the cons. You've kind of looked at your strengths and say, you know what, I have some marketable skills. Then you just go ahead and get started and use these different ways to get started. You have to have certain tools. You don't have to have a lot of money to start. I mentioned Upwork. Upwork, you don't need to send out any postcards. You don't have to do any cold calling. Only thing you need is a computer, internet access. Don't have to have a printer. I would say have a printer accessible, but if you're working through, like, let's say Upwork or Freelancer, through these freelancing sites, you're typically not going to be printing these things out. You're going to be sending them, faxing them, or most likely emailing or sending through some system that you use, some online system. So even a printer is not, you don't have to have a computer. Yes, a computer, email, you can create your own, free email account. Gmail doesn't have to be, anything, your own company.com, can be a Gmail account, Yahoo, these different Outlook, a telephone. Even with Upwork, you don't have to have a telephone. A lot of times what I've seen is in Upwork, they have it where you can do like a video chat, or a teleconference through Upwork, that's the one I've seen. I haven't seen on the other sites, but I know for sure in Upwork they have that. So telephone is not even really a necessity for if you're just getting started. Good to have, not a necessity, but they do verify your account. And one way, you can create a profile without your account being verified, but the more you can assure, people that you're applying to that, you're credible, this is who you are, this is not this phony account that you put together, the better. So when you have your account verified, you do need a telephone. Word processing programs, most likely you're going to need, but Gmail, Google Docs, you can type something in Google Docs and you can actually convert it into Word. It's free. You can either have, if you're offering services to different people in different places, you might not want to give them your home address, depending on what that relationship is. So you might want to have a P.O. box, or you can have a virtual address to where it actually looks like a physical address and people can still mail to you there, and so forth and so on. If you're doing legal research, evidence, if you're putting evidence together, you're doing some specialized services, you need some specific systems. You need some, legal research system, or you need particular, e-discovery systems if that's something you're offering. So you have to look at that, invest in that, in those services. But when you're first getting up and started, you really can start without having those. I know Fastcase, you can get like month access, I think for like $65, so you don't have to spend a huge amount of money. Or you can, worst case scenario, Google Scholar, FindLaw, these different sources, or a law library if you have to, just getting started. Legal forms, you can find some forms, judicial counsel forms. Most firms they may not want you using judicial counsel forms and want you to, something a little bit more sophisticated. And instead of creating these from scratch, you can actually subscribe to different services and have access to legal forms. And then you'll need to network, even if that's just social media, because you'll learn as you go along, if you've not started already, that it's something that it's always good to have resources, not just resources as far as things, but also resources as far as people that you can call and say, hey, how do you do this? Or, I'm experiencing this. How did you deal with this particular issue? So networking is really good, just to kind of get yourself started. So before I go into the questions, see if you have any questions or comments. I just want to briefly recap on this session and what we discussed. So far, we talked about, and I discussed the options for freelancing as far as you can just transition from being an employee to a contractor. You can offer virtual paralegal services where you're offering services online through one of these sites like Fireside, Upwork, Freelancer. I also mentioned LinkedIn. You can also go through a temporary agency like Robert Half Legal or Kelly Legal. And then determining what services you want to offer, you can capitalize on your strengths. What are those areas that you're strong at, and capitalize on those, or focus on a practice area and just offer services to attorneys within that particular practice area. And then using different methods for marketing as far as word of mouth, social media, and traditional marketing methods, sending postcards, cold calling, attending networking events. And so now I'm going to open it up for any questions or comments that you might have. Hopefully you found this session useful and it gave you some tips just to get yourself started or to help you determine whether freelancing is something that you want to do and you want to go into. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up for any questions. If you're going to log out now, I just want to thank you for attending. Thank you for joining, and look out for our next webinar. We have one next, I believe next Tuesday, the 16th,